Susan, I remember when so much trouble in Syria was just bubbling and you finally got in. And I remember watching you, and I couldn't believe you were in there because it looked like it was hell on wheels. It was so dangerous for the civilians, and there you were in the middle of the street. Reporting.
Yeah, it was 2011. It was difficult to get in legally. You know, there were some of our colleagues who were going in illegally across the border at the north. But we did get visas, and it was an interesting time, Anna Maria, because it was just at the start of where people started reporting on this war. And we went in and told all kinds of stories, but the one story that really struck me, and you'll know this experience, is a story that we had to do masking somebody because he couldn't be identified. It was a father, and he interested me because he was a middle-class Syrian guy, ran a business, maybe was an Assad supporter through his life because a lot of the middle-class businessmen in Syria were. And then all of a sudden one day his business graduate son got lifted from a cafe in Damascus, lifted by secret police, and he hadn't seen him in 118 days.
Wow.
And we went there, and you'll know exactly how this happens because you know the richness of the story, but you also know that you can't jeopardize this man. You can't identify him, you can't push him to do the interview. There's only so much convincing you could do for a man whose life could be in danger if you forced him or asked him to do the interview. So he said, I can't talk to you, I can't talk to you. And then I said, well, you know, we can do it in silhouette, and we can do this, we can do that, and would you do it? And he said, yes, I will. He did the interview, it was amazing. It talked about losing his son, about the loss of faith he had in his own country and in his own government, and how he didn't know where his son was and how horrible that was. And at the end of it, he said, now you can't broadcast this interview until I tell you.
Wow, what was he waiting for?
He was waiting for an amnesty. And Assad had promised that political prisoners would be released that week, and he was hoping that his son would walk out the prison gates. So you say yes, of course you do. But with a sinking heart, because we were there 3 more days. And I went back, and 2 days later, he texted me and said, meet me at the souk. And I met him, and he said, go ahead. My son wasn't released in the amnesty. Please tell our story. So we did, and I remember this man, and I remember his unseen son. And this summer, so almost 2 years later, year and a half, I got a Facebook note from his son, who said, we've never met, I want to thank you, I'm out. I'm living in Lebanon with my family, and I hope we'll be able to meet in Syria again. And I thought, wow, not that we were instrumental, but I was so grateful to this man, as I am with so many people we interview. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that they trust us. I'm grateful that they allow us into their homes, their stories. You know, he met me one night. Who's he to know who I am?
But I know it's that terrible feeling. You go in and you know these people are facing trauma that we can't imagine in our own personal lives. And then they are so generous to let people know. And I guess it's one thing I've learned, that people want people to know what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that bothers people a lot, along with the immediate trauma of a war, is thinking that no one cares that this is happening to them. When we first approached people who work with women who were raped in the years of the Bosnia War, where, as you remember, they had camps, they had rape camps. Rape was a weapon of war, and they said to us, nobody talks about this. And we said, we want to talk to a woman who became pregnant and kept that child. We really want to talk to these women. We want to know what it's like, because it's that wrenching emotion on both sides, what happened, and then yet you have this child who brings joy to your life. We met with her in central Bosnia, where I'd been many, many times, and she had driven to this one place to meet us. And she was a smoker, and she starts smoking, and we're doing this all in translation. And at one point she starts playing with the barcode on her lighter, little tiny barcode, and she pulls it off the lighter. And she starts moving her hands like so rapidly. And I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, it's coming. She's going to tell me exactly what happened. And she does. She starts talking about how she was raped by this group of men. And in that moment, all of the air goes out of the room. And she keeps on talking. And in her case, her daughter actually confronted her and said, I know what happened. And her daughter knows what happened, and she is now married to someone. Her daughter has a stepfather, and they have found a way to move forward with their lives. But, you know, she lives 10 kilometers down the road from where all of this happened. And it was a reminder to me that, you know, we come and go, but people live these lives. And I remember saying, you know, this is important not only to understand that what happened in Bosnia continues 20 years later in the lives of people, but, you know, you're there in Syria at the very same time reporting, and there are women in Syria going through the same process, and the 20-year process begins again.
You know, it's hard. You say we come and go. We drop into people's lives. We say, tell us your most intimate stories, the stories of life and death, of rape. And when they do, I always walk away feeling a little bit like, wow, I'm grateful, but, you know, you have to be careful not to trample on their dignity.